Welcome to After the Bell. I am your host, Lauren Cranmer. Today we have episode 7, and we are talking to Lindsay Hawker. She is a breast cancer survivor. She is a mom. She is now a multiple time marathon runner. She is a health coach. She is a run coach, and she lives a really healthy lifestyle. And she has put herself out there on the internet to share her story and to show you that you can really thrive after cancer. And I think she is just the perfect example of how you can come back from such a low place and make your life what you want it. And we talk about all the things in this conversation, and we barely brushed the surface. So I am really excited to get this conversation out there. And I really think she is just an inspirational person, if nothing else. And I think so many people can benefit from her and her story and what she provides to the cancer community. So please welcome Lindsay with me. Welcome to After the Bell. I am your host, Lauren Cranmer, and today we have an amazing guest, breast cancer survivor, mom, runner, marathoner, health coach, run coach, all the amazing things. Lindsay Hawker, welcome to After the Bell. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited.
I'm so excited to talk to you. And I'll be honest with you. It's actually like this weird full circle moment for me, because you were one of the first people that I kind of stumbled across, luckily, on Instagram. And while I was going through, I was in the trenches of treatment and figuring things out. And I saw you living this like healthy life after breast cancer and all of, overcoming, and this like resilient story you have. And it was such a vital part of my journey, seeing you where you're at, because it gave me hope. Like, I want to be that person who's healthy. I want to be that person who's able to come back. And so I just want to say thank you for putting your story out there, because it truly was, it was so vital to me. And I'm sure so many people to see kind of the things that you've overcome and where you are today. So I just wanted to start by saying thank you.
Oh, that's so nice. That really means a lot to me, because it's so hard to get on there and share. Like, I'm being very vulnerable, and I'm sharing like the worst parts of my life. But that's why I do it. And I'll never stop sharing my story, is so that there's people that need to see it. I'm 7.5 years out already, and I will still never stop talking about it. And, there's people, I get comments like, this has become your whole personality. And no, there's people that need to see this. I know that I was that person laying in bed sick, and I needed to see that hope. So that means a lot to me. So thanks so much.
No,
for
you
saying
are
that.
you are doing an amazing job at that. So, yes, keep going. And the people that think, cancer is our lives. You can't really, while it might not be as forefront for us as it used to be going through treatment, like it is a huge part of where we are today. So we can't really avoid it, even if we wanted to, So I think it's amazing to be able to make something positive out of it, and sharing your story for a positive reason, I think, is why not have that be a huge part of your life, So anyway, off my tangent of that. So I really want to kind of go back to the beginning for you and ask you kind of how did you find your cancer? When were you diagnosed? What was treatment like? If you want to kind of give us a little rundown of that.
So about 8 years ago, I had my second son, and I was really sick while being pregnant with him. I was absolutely very sick, and had him, and I had a problem with my right breast. I sent a breast pump back, and I said the right side it doesn't work, and they tested it, and they're like, it works. So I'm convinced that I had breast cancer while I was pregnant and after. I just didn't find it until he was about 9 months old. I found a lump, and I knew right away I had not been feeling right. And, I just knew something was off with me, but I didn't know what it was. So go to the doctor, and it unfolded like a movie, to be honest with you, except it wasn't a movie. It was my life. It was like kind of, I was watching somebody else go through this, but it was so surreal. Went to the doctor. They sent me the same day to go, get scanned and everything. And I was by myself. I was shocked. And I remember the doctor came in. Yeah, exactly. The doctor came in and brought a box of tissues and was like, there's an 80% chance it's cancer. And I'm like,
oh gosh,
what just happened? This is like, I just went in for a routine. I thought it was going to be nothing, to be honest with
Yeah.
you. Um, and so I went home and I remember just being devastated and just looking at my husband and saying, there's an 80% chance. And he's like, you're going to be the 20%. He was all positive. You're going to be that
Yeah.
20%. And I said, there was a slot machine in the corner of the room that 80% paid out. You'd play it. Those are pretty good odds.
Yes.
Like I hadn't wrapped
Yeah.
my mind around that. So, um, you know, went back, got confirmed that it was cancer, and I had a 9-month-old baby and a 4-year-old toddler. And I just looked at them and thought, if I don't get through this, they won't remember me. Like their memories are not formed. Like I was just totally in despair. So, and it was HER2 positive, my cancer, so it was more aggressive. Decisions had to be made quickly. I mean, like things have to be
Yeah.
made. You're thrust into this treatment plan. And so I started chemo pretty soon after that. And I did 6 months of hardcore chemotherapy, followed by my double mastectomy and then more chemotherapy. And it just felt like the treatment would never end, to be honest with you. But after my double mastectomy, they got me out of the bed and they said, walking is healing. I had this great nurse. She's like, walking's going to help you. So I started shuffling with my gripper socks through the hospital halls. And I thought, a light bulb went off in my mind. And I thought, well, if walking's good, running's got to be better, right? Like,
Yeah.
how can I? And so I was, I did not respond well to chemotherapy. There's people that do, and they're like fine with
Yeah.
it. I was in bed sick a lot. I had horrible side effects. So I remember laying in bed and thinking, when I'm cleared, I'm going to start running. Of course, my family was like, what are you talking about? Are you crazy? You're a bald cancer patient that's bedridden. You're going to start running? They were like, okay, sure, Lindsay, sure you are. But I did just that. When I got cleared 6 weeks after my double mastectomy, I started running, and it made me feel alive at a time when I needed it most. I
Yeah.
was like, this is amazing. When your ability to move your body's been stripped of you, it's like, I wanted that. I was never an
Yeah.
exerciser before. I never ran. I never stuck with any type of, workout regimen in my life, but I was determined this time to get healthy. And I had read all the data that, working out, exercising, movement, it helps, to keep recurrence at bay. So I was
Yeah.
going to do everything in my power to be here to raise my kids. So started when I couldn't exercise, there was procedures and things that put you back, and I wouldn't be able
Yeah.
to exercise. I controlled what was on my fork. I really got into eating well. Started moving my body though after 6 weeks after my double mastectomy, and then 2 months after that, I ran my first 5K, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. I'd never had that sense of community, and I was just
Yeah.
hooked, and I kind of snowballed from there where I kept at it, kept running, kept doing these races, and I kind of caught a bug. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Clearly.
Yeah, I
A
know.
little
I
bug.
know.
I
Yeah.
think it's crazy too. Like there's so many things within what you just said. First of all, you said 2 months after you did your first 5K of starting to run for like the first time ever. That's
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
That's so
Yeah.
big.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
I also understand what you're saying. Like when you are just sitting there not unable to do things, you're just dreaming of being healthy. You're
Hmm.
dreaming of wanting to just do anything with your body. So I understand that drive to like want to make this change in yourself. And I applaud you for were you still in chemo when you started to like
Yeah.
do this?
Yeah.
That's great. That's
I was still in
amazing.
chemo. I never ran, obviously never ran the day of chemo. The day after chemo,
Right.
and I was run walking. I'm doing intervals, like not,
Yeah.
going very slow and being gentle with my body, but
Yeah.
it was a lot of movement for somebody who was clearly, I joked, I downloaded the Couch to 5K app, but I joked that I needed the hospital bed to 5K app because like you're starting at such a deficit,
Yeah.
really, that it was hard. But yeah, when you're sick, at least I did, I dreamt of doing normal things, going to work,
Yeah.
taking my kids to school, exercising. These are all things that normal people take for granted or they complain about. But
Yeah.
it's a blessing, and it's, I was grateful to be able to get to a point where you're doing these everyday things that a lot of people just really take for granted.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you were going through this as a mom, how did you handle all of your treatment being that chemo was hard on you with such young kids? How did you cope with that while you were going through treatment?
I think that was the hardest part is, not being able to care for my kids at times because I was too sick.
Yeah.
Even after my surgeries, you're not allowed to lift. I had a baby, like you're not allowed to lift
Yeah.
things
Ugh.
over 10 pounds. And I remember, my mom would sit my baby like on my lap and he would like, we'd put a pillow, he'd tear the pillow off. He wanted to be close. That was the hardest
Yeah.
thing, is like not being able to be close. But um, that's why the fire was lit in me. I was determined to be healthy after cancer, no matter what it took, because I want to be there for my kids. I want to be able to do the everyday things with them. And
Yeah.
so I was determined to have cancer leave me better and not bitter. And that's
Love
not to
that.
say that I was like, there were weeks at times when I was down. That's fine.
Yeah.
But dust yourself up. You got to get back up. How can you make this better? How can you come out better from this? It's not always easy, but you can find ways to do that, if it makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that makes so much sense. And you're allowed to feel upset. You're allowed to feel like this
Yeah.
isn't fair, but you're right. Like you have to dust yourself off and, live the life that you want to live for yourself and not allow that to drag you down. So I love that saying, to make you better, not bitter. I love that so much.
Yeah.
That's a good lesson. Now I know that you had part of your journey, you had gone back to the hospital, right? You had some like gut issues. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. So, chemotherapy, as you know, is just horrible on your gut. It
Yeah.
kills the cancer cells, but also kills the good cells too. So, I went on a whole journey of gut health. I think it was a year after chemotherapy, I was diagnosed with celiac disease. And I remember the
Right.
doctor telling me, and I just broke down and cried. And he's like, "This is the first time someone's ever cried when I told him they had celiac disease." I'm like, I've had a lot of diagnoses, I've had a lot of doctors tell me horrible things in the past 2 years. So I don't know. I was just like, I'm never going to be able to eat. Like, I was just, I don't know. It was a lot to take in after everything.
Yeah.
But it really was, like I said, it's left me better because it's cut out a lot of junk. I mean, there's a lot of junk food that's gluten free these days now. I think a lot of things are trending towards gluten free, but it really gave me a chance to look at my nutrition. And so I went
Right.
on this whole journey of like trying to figure out, okay, what are some healthy foods to eat as a cancer survivor?
Right.
As someone who wants, more longevity, and then somebody who is also gluten free now. And I had diverticulitis. I mean, I had all sorts of gut issues that I had to work through. But it really had me take a long, hard look at my nutrition, and I caught the bug again. I went out and got certified, and I went and I really
Yes.
wanted to learn about it because diet is so important. Diet is important, movement's important, sleep is so important for your overall health. So there's all these different little pockets that, make the whole big health for yourself. So yeah, took a long,
Yeah.
hard look at nutrition too.
Yeah, I loved all the stuff that you would talk about in regards to nutrition because I feel that there's a lot of like uh with the diet culture, and especially with cancer patients, nobody wants to be told what to eat. And I get that. But there's a lot of like not wanting to talk about diet. But I think lifestyle, like you said, is so important. So the stuff that you were talking about was really like touching home with me because it's like this could reduce your cancer risk. Exercising, I think it's like 59%. It helps, I think that's the percentage that it
Yeah.
helps reduce the cancer risk. So all of these you had presented it in such a way, I think that was, it took like that like negative talk out of it and really made it just like empowering. And,
Yeah.
I really loved that about you, was that you kind of just allowed it to keep getting your life better. And and you said you were certified, right? You're a certified, is a nutrition coach.
I'm a certified health coach, and I got certified in plant-based nutrition too, which, is huge for cancer survivors. Like, you don't have to be 100% plant-based, but just adding fiber and plants to your
Hmm.
diet can do wonders for, recurrence, for just your overall health. Like I didn't
Yeah.
realize how good one could feel until how I feel now. I was a fast food queen before cancer. Like I would go, the people at Chick-fil-A knew who I was. They knew me. Like
Amazing.
I would go to these fast food. Yeah. So for me to do this complete 180, but I feel so much better now. And that's not to say
Yeah.
that I don't have things that are, quote unquote unhealthy, but when I do now, I realize how bad I feel and how bad I
Yeah.
was eating like that on a daily basis. Like
Yeah.
just eating like that, every now and then I'm like, oh, it makes me feel horrible. So, like you said, it's empowering. Like
Yeah.
eating healthy is the biggest form of self-love you can do. It really is.
I agree completely. I also I know we brushed over the whole running thing a little bit, but getting back to there, because you have since
Yeah.
run, how many marathons have you run in total?
I've done 3 full marathons,
It's
but I've done
crazy.
like I think 15, 14 half marathons.
Oh
Those are
my
my, yeah.
gosh, that's
And
it.
but
That's
but
amazing.
yeah, and I never thought when I went out for my first run, I never thought, oh, I'm going to be a marathoner one day. Like I started the 5Ks, and it was funny. I actually won an entry into my first 5K. There was a 5K outside of my neighborhood, and they were like, "Oh, sign up. There's a raffle." And I was running, but I didn't think of myself as a real runner, right? I thought of
Hmm.
myself. I'm a cancer patient. I can't go out there and like I had a bald head. I can't go out there and run. Like there's going to be serious runners out there. I had no idea. So I entered the raffle and I won. And I would have never signed up, I'm convinced, for a 5K if I did not win that entry. Then I felt like I had to go. And that's when I caught the bug. So yeah, I started with 5Ks and I worked my way up with 10Ks. And then I really loved half marathons. Apparently, that's my favorite distance. And then I never, if you would have told me, first time I ran that I would be running a major marathon, I'd be running the Chicago Marathon, I would have laughed in
Yeah.
your face. Like, there's just no way. But but I allowed myself to change and to grow and to try something new. I think as we get older, and as we have something traumatizing like cancer, we think
Yeah.
I'm this way. I'm not healthy. I've never been an exerciser. No, allow yourself to be something new. I started
Yeah.
running and now I'm a runner. Now I'm a marathoner, which is crazy to me, but I'm embracing it and loving it. And I'm going to
Yeah.
run hopefully for the rest of my life, God
Amazing.
willing. Yeah.
I know it's such a, I loved seeing that, all the things, even just when you were posting running, it was just like, it made me want to, I was never a runner either, but it made me like want to like get out there and just put my feet on the ground and go and allow things to just unfold naturally. Like you were saying, I think that's really important to just, stay. I think cancer teaches us to stay in the moment, right? Where we have to.
Yeah.
So in doing so, I think that helps us allow to like our lives to get to a point they need to be. Do you feel that? Do you feel like cancer was kind of the like catalyst to make you just allow yourself to get to that point of running marathons?
Yes. Well, once you do things involuntarily that are hard, like we got thrust into this cancer treatment where we had to do 16 weeks of, a year of chemotherapy, surgery. I had 4 surgeries. This was involuntary. It was hard stuff. Cancer is hard, very,
Yeah.
very hard. Running, not so much scary anymore, right? Not so hard anymore when you're looking at cancer. Like I've already done 18 months of chemo. I can go out and run 26.2 miles. There's nothing I can't do now that I've conquered
Yeah.
cancer and chemo. There's nothing nothing is going to be as scary as that. So that's the kind
So
of
true.
mindset I go with. And, running, even if you're not a runner, walking, just getting outside and moving your body, getting out of your head. I think we all live in our head when we're in cancer. We're indoors, like getting outside, getting in nature, moving your body. It gets you out of your head and into the present moment. And it can really do wonders for you while you're going through treatment, post treatment, even now. When I've been
Yeah.
inside half the day, I'm working from home, like I got to get outside. It's just so healing and just,
Yeah.
it's invigorating. Like I said, running made me feel alive at a time when I needed it most. Like I was down and I needed that. And that's what that outlet gave to me.
Yeah, that's truly amazing. And I'm so glad that you found your way through there because clearly your life has, exponentially gotten better from that. But within that, I know you said you were hormone positive, right? So you were on
Yeah.
treatment to put you in menopause through this.
Yes.
So
Yes. Yes.
how did that, like when you talk about all your activity, because I know that's a huge factor for cancer patients on hormone therapy where we worry about our joints and our, our bones and our, just being in pain, I guess, from not having estrogen. Like, did you deal with any issues you would say from being in menopause while also trying to put a lot of, time on your feet and on your body?
Yeah, so like I said, I never exercised before cancer, so I had no baseline. So it wasn't like I, worked out, ran, and then, now I'm in menopause. Like I had nothing to compare it to. So I was kind of sore, but nothing that I couldn't take, nothing that
That's
wasn't
awesome.
manageable. So I was able to just work out. I actually thrived without estrogen. I know it's going to sound weird. I'm probably one of like the few ones because now, I finished my 5 years of hormone
Yeah.
therapy. So I'm out. So I went from being in medical menopause. Now I'm out of medical menopause. Now I have a cycle, which is like unheard of, really.
Wild.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
So now I'm adjusting to exercising with a cycle because I've never had that either. So I think each stage brings with it different variables, but I was determined, and I think that motion is lotion, right? So when
Mm,
we move, it gets our joints going. I feel like when I sit too much or when I'm still too much, actually hurts worse. Like, when you go on a road
absolutely.
trip and you're like sitting the whole time, and then you get out of the car and you're like, like that's
Yeah.
motion is lotion. So I would just try to move. Even if my joints hurt a little bit, it kind of, I thought it helped me a
Helps.
little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, being that you're back, now you have estrogen again in your body. Take me
Yeah.
through, first of all, the mindset that you had when you were going off of these drugs, because while we don't want to be on them, we also feel like, I'm sure you felt like that was kind of like a little safety net. And it's scary
Oh,
to have like the hormone that your cancer fed off of back in your body. So, how did you feel with that
yeah.
transition?
Yeah. You're completely right. It's the devil we know, right? We know these drugs, but it's the devil we know. We know how
Yeah.
we feel on them, but I was terrified of coming off, but I felt like it was time. I had done my time. I had done my five
Yeah.
years and my doctor's like, "Look, you can get off of it. It might not come back." There's some people, their body waves the white flag, their cycle doesn't come back, their estrogen doesn't really come back because it's been suppressed for so long. So let's just see what happens. So we saw what happened and it came back. It came back. I have a regular cycle, but that's also telling me my body is doing what it's supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And I'm going back to my factory settings, if you will. And while it's been really scary, I'm learning to trust myself, right? I'm doing everything that I know in my power I'm supposed to be doing. I'm eating right, I'm exercising. I follow the lean principles, and that's an acronym. It stands for lifestyle, exercise, attitude, and nutrition. So
I
our
love that.
health is more than just eating and diet. It's also
Yeah.
lifestyle and the attitude we have and the mindset that we have, right? All plays a part in that. So I'm doing all of that. So I've got all my chips pushed in, all my
Yeah.
cards on the table. Like I have to lean in and trust my body that it knows what it's doing, and I'm doing everything in my power to combat recurrence. So worrying about, that estrogen being in my body is not going to serve me. So it's taken
No.
me a long time to get here. In the beginning, I feared recurrence. Like I'm
Yeah.
normal. I'm a normal everyday person. So of course the first year I really was so scared that something was going to come back, even holding my breath till the 5 year mark. But then there came a point to where I was like, this isn't serving me. Like I have
Right.
to go love on my people, live my life, do the best that I can. And that's all you can do, really, at the end of the
Yeah.
day.
And worry about it if that time comes when it happens, not prior when you don't know if it's going to
Right,
happen.
right,
Yeah, I totally,
right. And I used to worry about things. Oh, sorry.
no, go ahead.
I used to worry about things happening all the time. Cancer was never on my radar. I never worried about that, and I got cancer. Okay,
Yeah.
so like, I'm not going to worry about things until, like you said, until they happen. Then I'll worry about them. So,
That's a good point. Like you think about all of these worst, like, worst case scenario, all these things. And then it's usually the thing that you don't think of that actually
Yeah,
happens, which is just
exactly.
crazy how that all works. I'm really glad to hear that you're, over time you've kind of allowed yourself to just adapt to having estrogen back and accepting it. I do think that the fact that your cycle is so regular, that really shows the things that you are doing are really just allowing your body to like perform at its best. And I think that is so awesome. Too, in terms of like all the unknowns about your hormones after you've kind of, stripped them up in your body. So I think that, your nutrition and all your activity have really shown your body like, hey, we can come back from this low
Mhm.
state. You're just, your body's showing up from all the work that you're doing. And I think that's a really good testament to lifestyle change. And um, I'm very happy for you.
Yeah,
I
thanks. So,
I
and two, there's a lot of there's been a lot of weight fluctuations in that too. I mean, we're talking hormones, right? I mean,
Oh
I went
yeah.
from having cancer and being they pump you full of steroids and everything else. Like I was overweight and then I got underweight at one point and then now my body was adjusting. I put on some weight when the estrogen came back. So but my biggest thing has been loving my body where it's at. My body has been through so much. And like you said, it's been there for us. It's been there for me. It's been, my heart's been pumping, everything with all the chemo and everything that it's been given. So just loving my body where it's at and knowing that if you love it, it will work correctly, hopefully, and you
Yeah.
feed it what it needs. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's such a valid point. And it's so hard. I was talking to somebody about this recently where it's like you're you're stripped down when you go through treatment and whether it's mentally and physically with all the changes where your body like you have to kind of build yourself back up. And the only way you're really going to achieve that is through self-love and through really just taking care of yourself, your body, your mind. Like that's the only way you're going to get through such a low state in your life. So I'm really glad that you said that. Um, so now that you're within the time that you're post like your cancer treatment, I guess, because you've stopped your medications. What is next for you in your like what is next for you in terms of treatment or like follow-ups and all that stuff?
Yep. So I moved to yearly oncology appointments, which is huge. I
Yeah.
felt like I used to live at the cancer center. It's going back. Well, now my cancer center, they built a new one, but the old building that I used to go get chemotherapy, like just the smell, just going in there, just evoked so many emotions. And so only going there once a year is like huge to me. I mean, it was there weekly getting
Yeah.
chemotherapy and just moving to yearly has been a huge thing, but it's also like it's also scary to move to yearly appointments. I'm like, are you sure? Do you want I can come every 3 to 6 months and give blood work? And they're like, no, every year you're fine. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now. If anything comes up, talk to my oncologist, but
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm just moving along, just my
That's so
yearly
amazing.
physicals.
You're
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
it's so crazy. I always reflect on like, when you're within it in the beginning where you're just like, I want to be out of this so bad. And like, you're in that space now where like, I'm sure you thought about this when you were going through treatment. Like, I can't wait to be so many years out. And like, now you're here. And it's such like a night. It's so time is crazy, but it's also nice when you get to that point of like,
Yeah,
I'm further out than I imagined to be. It's just like
yeah,
it's a wild ride. I can't even.
it
Um,
is. It is.
I
It
can't
is.
wait to be
I
in your
used to,
shoes. I really can't.
you're right behind me. You're right behind
I
me. You
know.
are. I know. It's crazy. I used to cry in the car before I went to the cancer center. Like that's how bad I did. I was like, I don't want to go in there. I know I need to, but I just didn't want to do it. Did there would come a point I did want to do the chemo. I was completely over it. And I used to cry. I'd
Yeah.
be like, ah. And now, like you said, now getting to this point, I'm so grateful. I can't believe it. When I was like in active treatment, no hair, no eyebrows, looked in the mirror, did not recognize myself in the mirror. I would be out in public, of course, scarf on my head, and people would come up and they would say, I'm a 10-year cancer survivor, or I'm 15
Yeah.
year. And I couldn't even like, I couldn't fathom that because you're in it, right? And I was like,
Yeah.
but seeing them and being like, wow, they're 15 years out. Look at them. They look normal. Like you would never know if you saw them on the street. So that gave me hope. And so that's why I continue to show up on social media and tell my
Yeah.
story, because I want people to see that and know it's possible for them too.
Yeah, I love that you said that people came up to you because I know that could be like a little, I don't know, overwhelming, or even you feel forward to like talk to somebody that you see might be going through treatment. Maybe you notice they have a scarf on their head, or, something that indicates that they're experiencing this. But every time I've done that, where I've, reached out to somebody in person, and it's always been an amazing experience and kind of impactful. So I'm really glad that you mentioned that, people saying that to you really gave you hope and drive, because it's so true. Like there's so many more and that you would think in your day-to-day life that actually experience cancer. And when you actually like come face to face and meet and realize that people are doing this and they're getting years and years beyond, or they're just living their lives at their job doing their thing, it's really a beautiful thing to see. And I agree, the sharing factor is the driving force in terms of trying to give back and allow people to understand that you can get here, you could do this, you're not alone, all those things. So I'm with you on that for sure. And I also, going back to your treatment, you said 18 months of chemo. That,
Well, yeah, and I'm counting, what's the one now? I'm not going to remember the name of the chemo. I got it every 3 weeks. Um, it's considered immunotherapy, but I'm calling it chemo because I was going
is
every
it
three weeks. It doesn't
Herceptin or?
Herceptin, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
Herceptin. So I did 6 months of hardcore chemotherapy,
Yeah.
Red Devil, all that, all that good
Gross
stuff.
stuff.
Yeah. Then I had my surgery, and then I had to keep doing Herceptin for another 12 months. So it felt like it would never quit. It felt like it would
Yeah.
never stop. And people that are not in the cancer space, friends, acquaintances, are like, "You're still doing that?" Like they're still like, "Wow, I thought you would be done by now." And I'm like, "You'd think I would be,
Me
but I
too.
wasn't." And yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. And that's a whole nother topic, right? We know what it takes to go through this. If you haven't had a family member or you haven't gone through it, it's just really hard to explain to people. And people think that
Hmm.
your life just goes back to normal. And the truth is, our lives will never be quote unquote normal, right? We had this huge
Right.
trauma, but we can learn to live with it and move forward. But yeah, it was a long, long journey. So looking forward
Yeah,
to not having that.
that like the Herceptin part, I didn't experience. I went through the 6 months, I guess, of chemo, and that felt like forever. That you have,
Yeah,
like, it feels like that's the rest of your life. So I could
yeah.
only imagine having to finish that, move on, like go through surgery, and then start another, year long, like infusions. Like that is, how are you feeling on Herceptin? I know that you said it wasn't
Um,
like heavy duty, but how did it affect you physically?
Yeah, so I hear that it's similar to tamoxifen in the way that it makes you
Okay.
feel that, joint pain, you don't lose your hair, but it's kind of more of like a maintenance chemo, if you will, or
Yeah.
immunotherapy, if you will. So um, I really ramped up my running while on Herceptin. I was, really caught the bug then. So I was able to be really active still with that. I actually ran my first half marathon. I think it was a year after my last Herceptin.
Wow.
So, yeah. So, and my oncologist actually ran the same half marathon as me too.
So
And,
cute.
yeah, well, we didn't run it together, but we saw each
Okay.
other at the end, at
Yeah.
the end of the race. And he was like, "Wow, what do they put in those IVs at Herceptin I was giving you? I can't believe you're out here, running the same race." And we had a good laugh, but
That's
yeah, so
awesome. I'm glad that you
yeah.
said that you were able to continue running, because I think when people hear too, like all of these treatment modalities they have to get through, it's like, what am I going to feel like next? What am I going to be able to do? It's scary. So when people talk about it, share about it, and, it kind of relieves a little bit of that anxiety and anticipation. So um, I'm glad that you said that you were able to continue the things that you love and want to do for a healthy life, because while no one wants to continue to get infusions for a year,
Yeah.
I think it's good that you were able to withstand all the things that you wanted to do. I'm on a drug called Verzenio that's it's not the same drug, but it's a kind of like a maintenance. It's not chemo, but you know,
Yeah.
but I was a fear, like I was so scared. I was like, I don't want to do this. I'm not taking this drug.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
from all
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
so hearing, I talk about my experience with that too, because it's like, it wasn't as bad as I anticipated. And
Hmm.
to relieve that fear for someone, I think too, is an amazing thing too. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you
And
said
I
that.
also, I want to say, like, on social media, we see these highlight reels.
Mm,
I have a reel of me going from like walking the hospital halls to running a marathon. I will tell you, I can't tell you how many times I had to start over, right?
yeah.
Procedures, side effects from these drugs and stuff. Like, I think social media paints a picture that it happens
Yeah.
overnight. It doesn't. I was extremely gentle with my body. I had to start over running multiple times, starting from ground zero, working my way back up. Then I'd get down to a procedure, have to work but I just determined that I was going to show up for myself. And this was for health. This wasn't for like accolades or anything else. This was for me, and this was my time. This was something that cancer wasn't going to take away from me. Okay. This is something
Yeah.
that it wasn't going to strip from me. So I really want to stress that. I get messages all the time. How did you do that? I was so gentle with myself. I really listened to
Yeah.
my body, and I had to start over many times. So I think that's something I really want to stress, especially if someone's starting to exercise
Yeah.
after or during cancer, is to be gentle with yourself, and it's okay to start over. There's no finish line that you have to cross. You have to be a certain, a distance or go a certain speed. Like, it's all for health, really.
Yeah, I'm really glad you said that too, because you're right. With online, it can seem like so fast when you see somebody going from like worst case scenario to like thriving, but truly there's so many like layers in between that's not
Mm-hmm.
perfect, and it doesn't happen as easily, and it takes time, and you really do have to just allow grace for yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
doing that, you'll be able to get yourself back up and continue that life. So I'm really glad that you mentioned that, because especially from someone who runs marathons, and in terms of running, you have to restart running. That's a huge feat. So
Yeah.
I do think that's a really good message to put out. I feel like I, you know, I had to let go of an all or nothing mindset from prior
Mm-hmm.
to cancer. I was very all or nothing, and I didn't know if I realized it at the time. Like in
Yeah.
hindsight, I did, but letting go of that was probably like the most life-changing thing, because it allowed so much more space and freedom for all of these kinds of things that I love. And whether it's mentally, physically, spiritually, whatever you want to call it. But
Mm-hmm.
um, that being gentle on yourself in a culture that's so like go go go, you have to be the best, you
Yeah.
have to do all these things.
Mm-hmm.
It's I think that's such like a freeing mindset.
Yeah. No, completely. And there were times, like, when I tell you I started walking to my mailbox down the street, that's where I started. I was like, when I was sick, I'm like, I'm going to walk to the mailbox and back. That was a lot for me. Look,
Yeah.
if you only have 20% to give that day and you give 20%, that's 100%. Like, I think
Yeah.
we lose
Yes.
sight of that, right? Like, that, if you can
Yeah.
give what you can give, start where you are and build up. Like, that's all you can do. Like you said, giving yourself grace, doing what you can. Like, I had to let go of the all or nothing mindset too. And I would compare myself, even when I first started running, I would, really got into it, and I'd be like, oh, this person, they're my age. They beat me. I was like neck and neck. We were right there. And I'm like, did that person go through chemotherapy? No, they have, like, we are such individual people. Like,
Yeah.
we have our own health issues. Like, you can't compare. I
Worry
can't
about
even
yourself.
compare
Yeah.
myself to you, because
Yep.
we had different cancers, we had different
Yep.
things. So I think, like you said, social media, it's great. It has its
Yeah.
great aspects, but also the comparison and all or nothing mindset just are not good at all.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I wanted to ask too, with your life now. So you're giving back to the community, sharing online, you're coaching, you're doing all these amazing things. What is your day to day like? Because I know you still have like you're a full time, you have a full time job. Like, what do you do for work?
Yep. So I'm a full-time corporate paralegal. I work from
Okay.
home. So I have a full-time corporate job, but I also, like, my passion project is health. I've made health my
Yeah.
hobby, right? And I would have never have found this passion if it wasn't for cancer. So I was a paralegal, corporate paralegal before cancer, and obviously I still am, but health is my hobby and my passion project. I coach women on the side. I coach breast cancer survivors. I'm a certified health coach. So I talked a little bit about the lean system. And so that's what we really lean into, no pun intended, is lifestyle, exercise, attitude, and nutrition, and really honing in on those things and eating healthy, moving your body, doing what you can every day. So yeah, I do that. I do some run coaching too on the side. I've created it's a program from breast cancer to 5K. It's the program that I use to start running the 5K. I've had many, many women who have successfully
So
ran a
awesome.
5K after breast cancer. It's the best feeling ever when they message me and they show me that they went from, not running to now running a 5K after breast cancer. So that's really, it's just really empowering. And I also do a lot of volunteer work. I volunteer with the Donna Foundation, which I'm really passionate
Yes.
about. They are great. If you don't know about them, please go check them out. They help breast cancer survivors and patients nationally. So you don't have to, I live in Florida. You don't have to live in Florida. They help everybody. They've created something called the Donna Care Line where people can call up and get financial assistance while going through treatment, which is huge right now in this economy that we're in. So
Yeah.
I do a lot of volunteering through them and through the community. I've spoken at schools here and stuff, just really during Breast Cancer Awareness Month. It's really trying to get the word out. And I spoke with some high schoolers last year at a health class, and I was so nervous.
Of
And I
course.
don't get nervous because they were high schoolers. But it turns out we are in good hands. These kids asked the best questions. They were completely engaged. Like I had no reason to be. I was more nervous then. I actually did a radio show here with, I think it's like a
Oh my gosh.
300,000 people reach. And I wasn't nervous for that. But put me in front of
For
a
the
hundred
teenagers.
high schoolers, and I know I was nervous, but yeah. But it's been great. I love volunteering and giving back and to the community. This community is amazing. I mean, like, you've heard the saying, like, it's a club we never asked to be in, but the members are just awesome. Like
Yeah, truly.
there's badass survivors everywhere. And I think that's a great aspect of Instagram or social media, is being
Yeah.
connected to these people all over the world, that we all share this, horrible thing, but we can relate. And, there's people that I've never met in person that I feel closer to sometimes than my own, in-person friends. And I think
Yeah.
that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you're showing up in so many ways. I feel like, do you ever have time for yourself? Because it seems like you're doing so many like amazing
I
things,
know.
work, volunteering, running, all these things. Like you're a busy gal. But like you said, I think that,
Yeah.
the breast cancer community or the cancer community really finds a way to like show up. And I think that's one of the reasons that it's so
Mhm.
good, is because going through this, like people just want to show up, whether it's for their own lives or for other people going through it. There's just that factor of like wanting to give back in some kind of way, because I don't know what about it is. I guess it's that like realization that there's just so much more to life when you're come face to face with your mortality. It's like just such this experience where you want to help others go through this in a better way than maybe you have.
Oh, definitely. I'm all about paying it forward. There were a few breast cancer survivors that were ahead of me by a year or two, and they would email me, message me, text me. They were like helping me through treatment, and I thought, when I get further along, I want to be that person that they were for
Yeah.
me. I want to be that to other people. So I think that's what we want to do. We want to pay it forward. We want to have that sense of community, and like I said, just really pay it forward and help those that are a few steps behind you.
Yeah, absolutely. And also going back to the Donna Foundation, because I know that that was one of the marathons you ran or run, right?
Yes, yes. So it's the only marathon to finish breast cancer. It's been voted one of the best marathons. They have a distance for everyone. They have an ultra marathon, which is like a 110
It's
mile
crazy. Yeah.
an ultra marathon. Yeah, they have a full marathon, a half marathon, a 5K. They have a kids dash. But if you can, you have to get there one of these years. Like it is the most empowering thing. The neighborhoods are lined. These people come out and they have DJs in their front yard and food
That's
and snacks
awesome.
and along the route. And it's just, it gives me goosebumps because you want to talk about community. You want to talk about being inspired, seeing people that are 20 years out, 25 years out, a year out, people still in treatment, people with no hair running, people still getting chemotherapy. There was a woman who ran the 5K, went to radiation that day,
Oh,
came back the next day. Was yeah, like you want to talk about people who inspire you, like, and it makes you feel there's a sense of belonging there, and it's just so empowering. So I will do that race every year. I'm an ambassador for it. So if you follow me on Instagram, you'll hear me talk about it.
yeah.
We had a great race. It's in February of every year. We had a great race this past February. Just a month ago. It was amazing. And there's some fast survivors out there. Like, I don't know. Some of these people
So awesome.
are incredibly fast, but it doesn't matter. There's all abilities. There's people that walk all their races and have fun as well. So don't be intimidated. There's something for everybody. And it's a great, great weekend.
Hearing you talk about it like pumps me up. It makes me want to.
Yeah.
My husband and I have talked about it. Like maybe like we'll figure out a way to get down to do it because he's run one marathon before and wants to do it again, and he obviously wants to have a good purpose for it. And hearing you talk about it was actually
Yes.
how we found out about it. So that's definitely on our like to-do list at some point to get down there. I would love to just hear. And too, like I've been to like breast cancer walks and stuff, and that is the
Yeah.
same idea. Like you feel like, oh, you see all these like the signs that are like 25-year survivor or whatever, and you feel that community. And I've also been to the marathon my husband went to, and you see that alone, not even breast cancer related, like you feel that energy from
Yeah.
like the people running and the crowd. So like I'm sure coupling that together is
Yeah.
like a wild experience that I would love to be a part of. It sounds amazing, truly.
Yes. 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 There's a saying that says, if you're losing hope in humanity, go watch a marathon because you will be inspired. And it's so true. So you're right. So a marathon's already inspiring and, a race,
Yeah.
and then you put together breast cancer and it's like, whew. I mean, there's a lot of husbands, running with shirts. I'm running in honor of my wife, in memory of my wife. I mean, there's male breast cancer survivors there running. Like, it's an awesome weekend.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna, now that you're saying it's in February, I'm gonna try to I'm gonna go talk to my husband later and be like, you need to start training for next year
Yeah.
so we can go do it.
I love it. Yeah.
I mean, I don't have any aspirations right now to run a marathon. I have fallen in love with running after I went through cancer. But like you said earlier, like there's definitely like valleys of all the different things that you experience in the restarting. And I'm definitely in one of those like restarting phases, especially with running. So I hope to get back to
Yeah.
like a longer distance one day, but marathon is intimidating. So I can't say enough how like
Yeah.
amazing that is that you've done more than one.
Yeah. I know. It's like childbirth. I think you forget how hard it is, right? And then you're like, oh, I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna have another kid. You forget
Yeah.
about the birth, and the child. You're like, I'm gonna have another one. That's how it is with marathons, I swear. So, yeah. But I totally think that we need to give ourselves breaks. Like right now, I'm running less than I'm not training for anything. So I'm running for health. I'm biking. I'm doing a lot of strength training to strengthen my bones.
That's
Obviously,
great.
after all the treatment. I think that's huge. I'm, walking with my weighted vest. So I'm doing a lot of stuff that I'm not running as much, but I'm still running a little bit, but I'm not training for anything right now. And that's okay. Like you said, peaks and valleys, and I'll get
Right.
back to it when it's time to train for something. But just running for health and running for the enjoyment of it.
Yes, which is so needed. Like you need to just allow yourself to enjoy your life and not have any pressure related
Yeah.
to it sometimes. And pressure sometimes is fine. That's fine. But we do need to allow that
Yeah. Yeah.
space. Um, now, if you could go back to yourself in the beginning of all this, all of when you were diagnosed or even starting out running, whatever it is, what would you have told yourself now, like from everything that you've learned? Like, what would you tell past Lindsay in order to kind of get through all of these hurdles?
Okay, it's going to be okay, and to breathe. I think I held my breath for a long
Yeah.
time and I just created more stress in my body. And, it's going to be okay. Like you're going to be okay. It could turn out better than you expected too. Like I never thought I would be feeling this good or
Yeah.
doing this much stuff, but it can be better than you imagine. And I think that's a message I want to put out there too. I think, in the beginning, I think, oh my gosh, my life is over. And it's
Yeah.
so hard too being diagnosed at a young age because all of our friends are doing normal everyday things and they can't relate to it. So it's kind of hard. You think no one understands, right? It's almost like it's very isolating to have cancer at a young age. So that's why
Yeah.
I think community is key. But you're going to be okay. It's going to be all right. And just to breathe. I think we all get, so tense and so in our head that, it's going to be okay. And it's going to be better than you imagined, you know?
I love that. Yeah, it's so true. And the reassuring factor, like going back to yourself and saying it's going to be okay, it's so like validating because the experience is scary and there's so much of anticipation of what's to come. And then hearing, that it's even better than before is such a good message. Um, I love that so much. And I think that's a great note to end it on. And I really appreciate your time being here. And if people want to reach out to you, what is the best way they could find you?
Yeah, they can find me on my Instagram, Running Past Cancer, and then my website is runningpastcancer.com. Send me a DM, send me an email, and I usually get back to you. Any questions? I'm an open book. I have people ask me all the time treatment questions, all sorts of things. So if I can remember it, some things I've blocked out of my mind, I think, but if I can remember it,
Yeah.
I will share it. I am an open book.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Lindsay. I really appreciate your time being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.